we are very happy to let you know that United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County is also co-sponsoring this event with us tonight.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm Ken Kelly, President of United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County, and we're delighted to be able to co-host this event with District 5 United. District 5 United, by the way, has done a remarkable job in the short period of time that they have existed. We're very, very proud of them as a member of United Neighborhoods and look forward to more events like this. So thanks again for coming, and talk to everyone.
So we're going to start out with our candidate introductions. We will be asking the questions in a certain order, and it rotates. Somebody different will start each question. So we're going to start first with Teresa, and we're starting off with your candidate introductions. Please introduce yourself, and in your introduction, I want you to include what makes you the best candidate for this position, and in that answer, specifically list your relevant experience. Teresa. 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes for your thing, and we have the timers right here. They'll tell you when it's 30 seconds, when it's 1 minute, and they'll put a big stop.
Yeah?
You're on.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much to the organizers. You guys have done a great job with this event. Really wonderful. And thank you very much to the residents in this area to be here tonight and hear a little bit about the candidates for this position. You know, we are here tonight because the previous supervisor misused public funds. And regardless of the reason, the fact is that he broke the public trust. And our community should say that that is unacceptable and that we are going to support transparent and accountable leadership. My father came to San Jose in 1940. He was a radio announcer on KLOK. He was the first Spanish language radio announcer in Northern California. And he really promoted citizenship, Latino education. He spoke out against police brutality. And he then, became a really well-known figure in the community, supporting the community services organization when they were first getting started. Of course, many of you know my mother, who was on the city council, the first councilwoman elected to represent District 5, and then also served on the Board of Supervisors representing Supervisorial District 2 for many years. So my family really has a history of involvement and community service. I am very proud to stand on their shoulders, and it's really why I'm running for this seat. I think it's absolutely critical that we have someone in place that understands this community and puts community first. Throughout the rest of the evening, I'm happy to tell you more about what I do for a living and how it's relevant to this position. But again, I think the Board of Supervisors is really critical, and it's an important time for our community to identify and support leadership that really is going to listen to our community's needs and respond first.
Good evening, everyone, and my name is Cindy Chavez, and I am a nonprofit director. I'm on break from that to run for the District 2 seat. Just a little bit of background about me. I came to San Jose State wide-eyed and excited to be here from Fremont, which had no tall buildings, and San Jose State, which had Joe West Hall, which was the only building I could see from the freeway. But I was a student there, and I studied political science and really became engaged in how, as a community, we could get involved and make our communities better. And since that time, I've both worked at the Board of Supervisors for 3.5 years, served on the San Jose City Council for 8 years, served as a member of the Valley Transportation Authority for 8 years, and have been the leader of the labor movement here off and on for about 8 years. What that has allowed me to do is to be able to see our community from many different perspectives. When I was on the San Jose City Council, one of the things I loved most about being there was taking challenges that people told us we couldn't make a change in, that there was nothing we could do to make one-way streets two-way streets again, that we couldn't add back parks in neighborhoods that had never had them, that we couldn't build high-rise housing in downtown San Jose. And we did all of it. And we did all of that working with the community. And I'm running because I think the best way to make Santa Clara County transparent is to have leaders who are willing to be out in the community, change the way that government functions now, because I think the county is actually very insular, and I think this is an opportunity to make it face outward instead of inward. Thank you.
So hi, my name is Joe Jeunesse. I'd also like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I'm a third-generation Santa Clara County resident. Grew up in Santa Clara until I went in the Army at 17. Served my country for 10 years. Went to school, I was in the service. When I got out, I moved back here and moved to District 2 in 2004. Moved my family there. my wife and I both served in Iraq, so when we came back, we actually bought something, a house in District 2. I've spent 27 years in the military. I'm an officer. I started from a private, worked my way up. I've made 10 ranks in the military. I've served, led troops in combat. I've had good decision-making skills. I'm a law enforcement officer, deputy sheriff here in this county for 10 years. So my whole life has been around service to the nation, service to the local community. And now I want to continue that service because I wasn't happy with what happened, like Teresa there said, with the last supervisor. And I decided to, do a citizen's duty and run for office. I'm new at this, so I will go into this position with no outside influences, none of that. I'll have a perspective to go in and look at the problems and really see what's going on in this district and make decisions like I've been trained, experienced in, and taught how to do. Because in the military, we're taught to assess, identify problems. We go in there and we come up with courses of action. And then we implement those courses of action with the best information possible that we have. And that's what I'll do. Because I won't have to worry about, like I said, a bunch of special interest groups or any of that trying to influence me, because that's not what I'm about. I'm going to do what's best for the citizens in this district, because I'm raising a family in this district. So it's going to be, when I make a decision, it's going to be what's best for everyone, not just best for a small group of people. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, buenas noches. And thank you to District 5 United and all the members who have organized this event. I am Patricia Martinez-Roach, and I'm an immigrant. I arrived to California in 1962, where I lived in Oakland, and I learned to speak English in Oakland. Then my mother wanted to be close to the Mexican population, so she bought a house in Tropicana, and we lived there since 1966. So I've lived in San Jose since 1966. I went to Oberfell High School. I got married, I had 2 children, I was divorced, and I raised 2 kids, and I became involved in their education, specifically my youngest son, who is here today. I became involved in his education. I was very concerned that he was being discriminated against in the Allen Rock School District, where he was tested in English only in his first language of Spanish, and they placed him in the wrong class. And I was so upset that I wanted to find out who was making decisions discriminated against all the Latinos, because I found out that every single student in his class that were 3 years old were being placed in a mentally retarded class because of their language. So I wanted to be a school board member, and I ran in 1981, and I lost by 50 votes. And I walked precincts for 2 years, and I was the first Mexican-American woman elected to the Allen Rock School Board in 1983, a long time ago. And I had the pleasure of serving there for 9 years, and then the more I complained, the more I got appointed to things, and one thing led to another. I served 16 wonderful years on the Eastside High School Board, 7 years as a commissioner. And why am I running? I'm running because I think it's time that we elected people based on their qualifications, their experience, and the passion, dedication, instead of who's bankrolling you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David S. Wall. My wife and I met my wife at San Jose State, where I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and almost a 2nd degree in mathematics. I've been involved with the city of San Jose for some time, especially when we moved into our house in 1989. Crime was rampant in my neighborhood. Drug dealing was a commonplace event right next to my house. It was from that standpoint that I went and visited Her Honor Blanca Alvarado years ago, and then initiated my desire to make neighborhoods strong and safe. I'm a very strict, ultra-conservative financial person. I'm also very strict and conservative when it comes to law enforcement, with reference to gang suppression, graffiti abatement, and all forms of criminal activity. I want this out of our neighborhoods. My expertise with knowledge of San Jose, the city of San Jose operations, despite other commentary already previously disseminated to you, is profound. And since District 2 is primarily, County District 2 is primarily San Jose, with the exception of a couple of isolated county pockets, it's imperative that the county and the city work hand in hand together, because money is disappearing. And so we have to act as one unit to take care of our District 2 within the county system. Today, you're going to see all of us here You're going to make a decision on your own. And I thank you again for putting up with all of us. And of all things, I'm a Native American. I was born in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
So our next question is, what do you see as the main issues currently affecting District 2?
So I'm going to stand, I was worried because they're taping this, and so anyway, I want to stand because it's more fun to look at you all. So as we look at District 2, I think the biggest challenge that's facing us in downtown, in the east side, and in the southeast side is really crime. As I've gone door to door, I think the number one thing that people ask me about is what can we do to make our community safer? The second issue that people raise is health care. What's going to happen with health reform? What happens with the county hospital? What services are going to be available to us? And the third issue that I would just say it's come up a lot, and there's different ways the county can help, is really the economy and jobs. Like, what is it that we can do to lift people out of poverty in our community? So let me just talk for a moment about public safety and crime, because that is the number one issue that I've been hearing about on the doors. And I think there's an incredible opportunity. One opportunity you get when budgets shrink is all the hubris goes away. All of the I'm in charge and it's got to be all under me goes away. And I think that gives us an opportunity to combine resources between the county and all of the cities in the region to look at the current agreements we have for memorandums of understanding for mutual aid so that we are better able to provide services irrespective of boundaries, because frankly, criminals aren't looking at boundaries. Those are political jurisdictions. Those are not public safety jurisdictions. I think if we start there, I think we can make big change in our community.
All right, so being law enforcement and military police, and also a military intelligence officer, I have a unique experience about crime. And I agree with that because I have served as a law enforcement officer locally and overseas, and had to bring security to other nations' populations. And the one thing I've learned is crime affects everything. Crime affects your health care, like Cindy was saying, because you're going to have more people going to the hospital because, well, as law enforcement, we're arresting them, we're taking them to jail, we're doing this. It brings all the costs up. So the first thing you got to work on is honestly crime. We got to figure out a way to bring it down. Now, I've worked in jurisdictions. I've actually had calls down here where I'll arrest somebody or attempt to arrest somebody, find out it's in San Jose's jurisdiction, and then have to call San Jose to come arrest them. That makes no sense. I can't believe I can't just do that myself, but I'm required to do that. So once again, as Cindy was saying, we have to figure out a way to do MOUs and this and that to get with San Jose, us, and get those boundaries, get them out. I mean, somehow get Santa Clara County Sheriffs. If San Jose is short on officers, because they are, they're losing cops left and right, I don't understand why we can't go cover their beats for them if we have the extra cops. Should be no reason we can't do that. And that's what I would work on, because once you can get the crime rate down, people will move here. Businesses will come. That's what you need to do. You've got to start with crime. Once that's done, then the community gets better. Look at the other districts around, besides our district. People want to move to their districts because lower crime, housing prices go up, businesses come, and that's because the crime rates are manageable. And you got to take risk. So I know how to take risk on that. You're going to take cops from areas, and they're not going to like it. Somebody's not going to like it. Somebody's going to lose. They have low crime and put them in the higher crime areas. And that's what I do is risk management. So I know for personally how to do that. So, and that's what I'll do. So thank you.
The biggest issue that I have faced has been crime. I'm hearing that from everyone that I talk to out in the streets, or friends, neighbors. Crime is the #1 issue in everybody's mind, and I think we all agree that there's way too much crime in our county. We don't have enough resources. We have less police officers. The county is faced with a huge deficit. They've been deficit spending for a long time. They don't have enough money. In fact, there's a great article today, and I think it's in the Metro that I saw, that if you haven't had a chance to read it, you really should. Housing is a huge issue, especially in some of the pockets of the district. Many foreclosures, a lot of people don't have a place to live, homelessness. If you look around and you see people out in the streets asking for money for work, for food. I'm a teacher, and I work with the poorest community that you can imagine, and it's heartbreaking to see families who are working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay rent in this county. And I know there's not enough money to go around, and I know I have a lot of experience with budgeting, but one of the things that I think is critical for the Board of Supervisors, especially in District 2, is I'm proposing that we open a satellite office somewhere in the district that should be funded independently, not with county money, not with taxpayer money, hoping that I can raise some money with political contributions to open an office so people can just have a place to drop in and speak in different languages, because I do speak Spanish fluently, and we have a huge population that is multilingual in our county. Gambling issues with the Vietnamese community, a lot of crime with our youth. We have more Latinos and African Americans in jail than anybody else does. And so there are a lot of issues affecting us. I don't have all the answers, but I do have the dedication and the experience to work, because I have been working trying to prevent crime. And I'm organizing a march on May 4th, which is a gang, to stop gang violence. So I hope that some of you will come out and support us nearby in this corner here.
First, I would like to thank Joe for his service as a sheriff's officer and an officer within the United States military. Thank you, sir, for your service. And in attendance, we have a lieutenant at the San Jose's finest. I'd like to thank you, sir, and your brother and sister officers for all your efforts on our behalf. As for crime, one of the things that a Board of Supervisor person needs to do is to re-legislate deterrence. Crime is rampant. Why? Because there is no deterrence for criminal activity. Nobody cares. There's nothing to stop a criminal. Going to jail has become a social promotion for some people. So we need to reassess how we're going to punish people in order to effect deterrence, so people won't even think about creating crime. Now, how do you do this about creating or instilling the sense of community within a person so they won't commit a crime, so they feel part of the community? Well, that instills activating all of you and everybody else here to participate more in these type of affairs, for you to run for government, for you to give your ideas on how to punish people to stop them from doing crime. For example, if somebody were to tag your house, what would you want done to them if they were caught? Currently, what do? Little community service, meals, whatever? No. Legislation is the key for deterrence. Now, as far as the job situation goes, county governments can only do so much, because sometimes it's not within their purview to create jobs. Then again, on the other hand, there are ways to raise money to employ youth to deter them. For example, just youth crime. Fire prevention. District 2 is ripe for fire every single year, and yet we don't have people up there knocking down the weeds. There are a lot of ideas that are out there. More ideas that I have sitting right here before me, all throughout the district. And it's unfortunate. Thank you for my time, sir.
So they all talked about public safety, so I'm going to focus on another area. The county is such a unique level of government because it invests in people and provides people with second chances, sometimes third and fourth chances. But I think that's really important, because even if you are not the person that needs that helping hand, it's really critical that we have that safety net in our community, and it benefits all of us. 3 areas that I think are really important are affordable housing and homelessness. Our district is really suffering with tremendous homelessness problems. The housing costs are so expensive here. 50% of those that are homeless are so because of a sudden incident, whether they lost a job or they had a bill that they didn't expect. And so they're out on the street, and it's a terrible thing. 35% are recurring homeless, and 15% are those chronic people that probably have a number of conditions, maybe mental health issues, drug and alcohol dependency. But all of those come together, and we need to address homelessness in a really comprehensive way. Another issue is healthcare. Obviously, healthcare reform is coming. The Affordable Care Act will be implemented over the next several months at the county, and we are uniquely responsible for providing public health care to the community. And I think how we do that and how we deliver those services to our community in language, culturally sensitive ways, making sure that we're in the communities directly and outreaching to folks who need that healthcare is really critical. And then again, focusing on prevention is really key as well. The third area is education. The county actually has a unique role to play in education and really helping to build a healthy child and a healthy family. We want to make sure that kids stay out of juvenile hall and stay out of the principal's office and are getting the services they need so that they can have a great school experience. And the schools are really the hubs of our community's involvement, and that is a great way for the county to partner on schooling services that help kids succeed.
Hey, thank you. Just a real quick reminder, as you're listening to the candidates answer these questions, if you come up with additional questions you want, we do have a couple of people. If you raise your hand, they'll bring you an index card, and then I'll let you know when the last chance is to turn those in so we can ask those questions as well. So, Joseph, you'll start the next round. What are your 2 top budget priorities?
Well, what I would do is, like I said, I'm going to look at what the budget is being spent on. I'm going to find out what the top 2 budget priorities are and see if that's what they are. Then I'm going to go find out where the money's being spent. So if that's where it's being spent, I'm going to go there and look at it and make sure the money's being spent well. So I'm not going to tell you I'm going to have 2 top priority budgets until I know what the budget says we're spending it on, how it's being spent by each district, what we can actually spend as a board of supervisors in the district. So, like I said, my job will be to go in there, look what we have, see what's being spent, analyze it, and make sure that I can find out if it's being spent right where it needs to be. And I will make the priorities, prioritizations. I have experience. One of the things I did was in Iraq. I had one mission. I had to go to the city of Karbala and rebuild a police station from scratch. No police are there, nobody's there, it's empty, it's burned out. State Department rolls up and says, here's $5 million. Hire people. Make it happen. So, that was to start with. So that's what I would do. I would look at the priorities. First I had to hire people. Then I had to make sure I had to get the equipment they needed, everything. So I would go into the budget, do the same thing. I would look at where the money's being spent, and then prioritize it with the needs of this district. And I would fight for the needs of this district and trying to get what we need, the priorities here. And then work with the other boards of supervisors and see where their money's being spent, and see if there's stuff that maybe we can prioritize over here, over there, because this is the lowest per capita income out of all the districts. So we have more need here than any of the other ones. So once again, like I said, somebody's not going to be happy, but I'm not here to tell you what you need to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. That's what a leader does. That's what I'm taught in the military. That's what I'm taught as a law enforcement officer. So I'm going to tell you the straight, what we call bottom line up front. I'm going to do that with the budget. We say this is where the money is being spent, and this is how it has to be done.
I think the question was 2 top priorities. Because there's not enough money in the, like I said earlier, the county is deficit spending. As an example, in the mid-year budget, they have spent already over 21% just in health and welfare services. As an example, we have some homelessness issues with people who are addicted to heroin and prescription drugs who are being administered a very expensive drug to help them get out of that situation. And there are about 20 patients a week that the county has to serve. So we have a huge issue with the budget, and I think that the biggest issue for the Board of Supervisors is going to be how are you going to pay all the services when most of the money is going to salaries and to benefits. And because of my experiences in working in collective bargaining, and I'm also a teacher and I've been union representative, I think it's really critical that you have people that are going to be working at the table dealing with the issues, and I'm proposing that the county establish an audit. I know that they have an auditor, but they should have an audit department by department and program by program. And why is that important? Because we need to know exactly where the money's going. We have way too many kids who are in juvenile hall. There are sexual assaults and abuse that you would not imagine in juvie. Now, why is that a problem? Because it affects all of us. These are kids. So the county needs to really look at this issue of gang suppression, having enough law enforcement, making sure that people are getting the health services that they need, and more importantly, having somebody that has a voice for them. And I think that I have that experience and passion, but I also know that there's not enough money to go around. So there are some serious budget issues that the county is going to be facing.
We heard earlier about the concept of affordable housing. Let's talk about this for a second. This is a development scam. Developers are given all sorts of perks not to build car parks, not to build parks, in order to build these facilities. These facilities don't even pay property taxes. So you have to ask yourself, do you want these high-density living structures in addition to affordable housing structures in your neighborhoods? Because they'll park in front of your house, they'll litter, it's a mess. My own particular thing with the city of San Jose over many, many years on this issue is that it is just a development scam. Now, one of the big issues about facing the county and all cities or city of San Jose is parcel tax reformulation. For all the property owners in here, or even the people that rent, parcel taxes are going to break you in half, because governments from now on are going to start lobbing all sorts of fees upon parcel taxes. Therefore, parcel tax reformulation, in which these high-density living projects, they should be broken up into individual parcels, just like single-family homes. And otherwise, everybody pays their fair share because revenues are disappearing. And yet, the mode and building within the city of San Jose is nothing but these high-density living structures. Now, also, one of the budget priorities is to start moving public safety off of general funds. There has to be created a funding mechanism that takes away public safety from the peaks and valleys associated with boom and bust years. We must maintain the quality of our employees without taking away their salaries and benefits because it's a political flavor of the day. Thank you.
So the budget picture at the county is actually changing. After many, many years of cuts, over the next couple of years, there will be new revenues coming into the county coffers. So with the passage of Measure A last fall, the passage of Proposition 30, the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, and AB 109 realignment money, it's going to be a new day in a lot of ways at the county. And I think it's really important to have a very disciplined and thoughtful approach about how to use those funds. I remember Governor Brown several months ago said the same thing to the state legislators. You know, we have a lot of pent-up demands, we have a lot of needs, but we also have to be very mindful that we need to plan for how we're going to spend these funds to make sure that they're going to meet the intended purposes that the voters approved. So we want to make sure that we do that in a very thoughtful way. I think the other real priority is addressing root cause issues, and the county has gotten very good about this, maybe because of the economic crisis, but not just throwing money at symptoms, and instead really looking at what are the underlying causes of homelessness or educational issues. And I think that's really important. We want to make sure that we're making an impact in people's lives forever, not just for a short time and then they end up back in prison or jail. So I think it's important to identify what are those good programs that are working well and continue to invest in those partnerships, whether, again, it's education or homelessness or healthcare or any number of issues. We need to work with the county, the city, water district, school boards, and other agencies, nonprofits, to come together and address the root causes so that we can make a lasting impact in the work that we're focused on.
So the county budget is huge. It's $4.2 billion, and almost a third of that budget comes from the state, a third from the federal government, and a third from property tax. And about $750 million of it is really what is discretionary, what is that people can, the board can get its hands on, the community can get its hands on and start to prioritize. Why is that important to understand? It's important to understand that because I think your very important point that Joe raised is that, you know, we don't want to we don't want to put out there ideas that really, or raise expectations in a way that can't be met. And let me just say that I think there is not just pent-up demand, but there are also opportunities and risks ahead for the county. And two of them are what happens with realignment. What are the impacts long-term of us taking responsibility for more and more of those folks that are in custody, number one. And number two, what happens with the Affordable Care Act? And let me just talk for a minute about that. The Affordable Health Care Act, as it goes through its process, one of the intended goals is that everybody has an opportunity to buy health insurance. we don't yet know what the cost of that health insurance is going to be. And because of that, we don't yet know how many people are going to be able to afford that insurance versus still coming to the county in need of services. So that's one issue. But the second issue is that we have a lot of people in our community who will not have access to health insurance, particularly those that are undocumented, and that is a very big part of our population. So really understanding how the Affordable Health Care Act is going to have implications and impacts for the budget, not just over the next year, but over the coming years as the integration happens. So my top two areas that I'm going to be focused on are really taking a strong look at affordable health care and realignment to better understand the long-term impacts to the county's budget.
So question number 3, I'm only going to give you a minute for this one because everybody pretty much already touched on it, but there were specific questions that the community wanted to know in this way. So what are your top priorities for improving the safety and quality of life for citizens in the county? So we'll start with Patricia this time.
Education. Education, prevention, and training. And I say that as a teacher, as a former board member, that I spent 39 years of my life teaching and educating parents and empowering them, giving them the tools to help their kids and to make sure that they knew what to do and the resources available in their community. It's so important that the county spend time in education, and not just education going to school. I'm speaking about the Parent Project. I don't know if you know what that project is, but that project should be available to every single parent that needs it. Currently, what is happening is that if you have to be a very certain scale income, and a lot of families are afraid to give their income because they don't want to be tagged or singled out. So I'm going to be looking very aggressively to convince my fellow colleagues on the board that we need to have that program available to all parents that want it. And that what that project does, it helps parents on how to deal with their kids when they're being identified into gangs and crime, which is my priority.
Government cannot legislate how you're going to raise your kids. That's your responsibility as parents. And if you don't take that responsibility seriously, then there is cause and effect which will happen to your kids. There's not enough money. There's not the vision of utopia that has been previously discussed that can solve these very serious and dramatic effects to families. Families are families because they choose to be that way. When you have children, it is your responsibility to raise them up in accordance with the laws of the land and to maintain your cultural identities. Government cannot and should not interfere with that until it becomes an issue for the public good. Go to church this week. Thank you.
So a couple, one is schooling services. I think, we talked a little bit about kids, and kids that are abused or neglected at home have a much higher incidence of crime and violence when they're getting older. So it's really important to provide services for kids so that they grow and learn in a healthy environment, and that they learn how to deal with their emotions and the consequences and circumstances that they're living in, whether it's poverty or other issues at home. So I think that's very important. The other is the reentry services that the county provides for formerly incarcerated. In the past, we would lock people up, and then they would serve their term, and then we'd release them back into the community without any kind of bridge to getting back into the mainstream of the community. The services the county provides right now are pretty amazing, and they're entirely for the purpose of reducing the rate of recidivism and reducing the rate of people just going back into prison or coming back into the communities and being violent. And so what's really helpful is providing the mental health and other services so that they then can enter our communities safely and not end up back in prison.
I'm going to just talk about two things. One, I mentioned earlier about the agreements we have for mutual aid. And I think what that means relative to public safety is that when any city decides that they're going to make dramatic cuts like the city of San Jose did, it has impacts not just for the county, but for cities around the area. And so I think one of the things that we need to make sure we have an opportunity to do is when cities are planning for their own budgets, and if they're going to be doing something dramatic, they need to meet with the other cities and the county to make sure that we're not having an undue impact on any single community. And I think if we do that soon and early and get people in the habit, at least of having conversations, we will be a better prepared community than we are right now. The second issue, and I know you've probably been reading a little bit about this, is that when we have fire services are intended to get to a fire before a fire leaves the room of origin. And that doesn't happen anymore. And that means that we have much more property damage, we've had some deaths, and we need to really rethink how we do coverage, again, because of the cuts.
So I think the top two are, one is education for the kids. They got to be given the resources they need. I know in this community that's a challenge, because I believe here the kids aren't feeling safe in school. It's, going to school isn't always, going down these streets, walking down these streets isn't always safe. So you got to give the kids a safe environment. And that's the first thing you got to start with. If they feel safe, they can go to school, and they can learn, they can get themselves, out of the situations that they're in. That's basically what I had to do. So, having a safe environment, getting the police, more maybe involved in the local schools. We already have like community resource officers, I know we do, but maybe get more officers out there as role models, and they can maybe mentor some of these kids. Kids need mentors, and you gotta get them out there and give them a positive example, tell them there is a way out, because I know in this area there's a lot of crime, a lot of gangs. I see it, right now I'm working in the courthouses, and what I do like about this county is like Ms. Alvarado said, is you get we don't try to keep them in jail, we try to get them programs, so that's a good thing.
All right, thank you. We'll go back to our 2 minutes for the next question. Given the reason we're even here and having this election, what will you do to restore fiscal responsibility to the government? And we're starting with David.
Go ahead and give me 3. Don't take it back. We hear of fiscal responsibility. We hear about crime. We hear about the implied sentence of burning to death because no firefighters, right? Who voted for Measure B in this room? Okay. Measure B was misrepresented to the public. Subsequently, the San Jose Police Department has been decimated. And our fire services have also been severely hampered. But the Measure B people, one of which is in this room, couldn't speak for themselves. One of the most accursed departments in the county is the Santa Clara Valley Water District, with their relationship to the city of San Jose. Now, what does this have in relation to everybody that's here? It deals with fiscal responsibility in misusing government funds, specifically your sewer service use charge, as it applies to South Bay water recycling, as it applies to the accursed Silicon Valley Advanced Water Filtration Plant. Now, none of this is really publicly discussed except for the public deal making. But under the sewer service and use charge, you don't have to pay for any of this. Specifically, the endangered species years ago that triggered South Bay Water Recycling's birth. It has been proven that none of the endangered species were ever threatened. But yet over $500 million of our money and county is going into this project that you don't have to pay for by law. Then we hear of transparency in government. This is a good thing. But people that don't know what they're talking about didn't look at the county charter. We already have open government. It's right here. This is the ordinance. All you have to do is amend it for your sunshine stuff. But when you have people who don't really know the structure of government espousing that they do know, you have a problem.
Well, I actually want to highlight the Santa Clara Valley Water District. We have 3 board members here tonight, and I think it's an organization that is really doing the right thing. We've worked really hard on focusing on transparency and accountability, and I have 2 jobs at the Water District. I manage 2 departments. I'm on an unpaid leave of absence at my urging so that I could focus on the campaign. But the two organizations that I manage there are the Office of CEO Support, which is entirely focused on organizational performance, internal audit, accountability, outcome measures. It's a very engineering organization, so they love doing all that stuff. And then the other hat, I'm the manager of the Office of Communications and Community Engagement, where we tell the public about what we're doing. We get their feedback, we ask them about their priorities, and we are reporting at the board all the time. The board is very mindful to make sure that the decisions that we make are fully vetted in the public's eye. You know, no organization is perfect, but that organization has really embraced criticism and reform. And I really want to highlight them and the work they do, and the work that I do is really for that purpose of ensuring that the public understands the work that we're investing in and they approve and support our priorities.
When I served on the San Jose City Council, one of the ways that we focused on transparency is we created new ways for people to get involved in determining their fate. One was through a program called the Strong Neighborhoods Initiative. And the whole idea behind that program was talking to the public. I see people nodding their heads who've been part of that program. Talking to the public and letting people create their own plans for their own neighborhoods and prioritizing what needed to be funded. Now, what was important about that is that money that we used to do that was redevelopment dollars. The redevelopment agency for years had gone to, and funding from it had gone to a very select group of developers and really hadn't been shared with the public in a meaningful way until that time. So I think being able to go out to the public and say, what is it that you want? What do you believe? And then being very open and honest about what we can afford to do as a community. And if you go through a number of the neighborhoods, you'll see that change. Another example of that actually is the building that we're in right now. When we passed Measure O MP, you know, part of the way we did that was we reached out to neighborhoods and communities and said, should we rebuild, you know, in your community, and what would that library look like? This library was built with public input, as it should be, right? Not just this one, but libraries all over. So I think part of it is changing the culture of a very large organization to see itself not as insular, but as responsible and accountable to the public. When you spend our common wealth and you choose to work in the public sector, you have to be ready to be literally a public servant, and that means being very open, transparent, but also very collaborative with the public.
I want to look at where the money's being spent and see how it's being spent and make sure that it's being spent well in the effect of looking at the long term. And we can use San Jose PD as an example, like Mr. Wall said. When that decision was made, I don't think what we call second and third order effects were looked at. Now, what does that mean? That means, yeah, we're trying to save the city money, but are we saving the city money by making these decisions? And I mean that because crime went up. So there's things that are measurable. You can measure crime. You know crime went up, but there's things you can't measure. Now that crime went up, our business is coming here and looking at that. You can't measure that really easily. You can't talk to somebody who might have had a business here. So I'm going to look at, when I make these decisions fiscally, how they're going to affect the community, not just short term, but long term, and how it's going to affect the employees, and how it's going to affect the citizens, because that's what you have to do. Because, like I said, from San Jose, you know, we're losing a lot of employees, a lot of good cops over there. And you have to ask yourself, did we really save the money? Is it really being fiscally spent? Because now, with all the other stuff that's happening, like I said, businesses and education and housing prices and everything is affected by that. So when I look at the budget, I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at long term also. Because when you're looking at that, you can really see if there is effect being made or changes. That's one of the parties have to do. Like I said, looking at the budget, you're going to, like Cindy said, $750 million. Look at that and see where it's going for this district. But you got to find out first where exactly the money's going from and going to, and then you can make your decisions based on that. So that's what I would do.
I think the question is, how do you restore fiscal responsibility? And the reason why we are here as candidates is because one person abused the power. And unfortunately, the subordinates were supervising the boss, and that doesn't work very well. So I think what we need to do is make sure that there's an independent person that is really supervising and auditing every expenditure that an elected official is using taxpayer money. And I say that because we went through that at Eastside. We actually hired an independent auditor that only worked for the board, And it became a real eye-opener. And we also established a hotline, which was called an anonymous fraud hotline, that anybody can call in multiple languages and just leave tips on things that were going on as far as abuse. And I really think it was money well spent. I think it cost about $30,000 to establish this hotline, and it was paid from some funds that were not directly going to affect the program. And why is that important? Because you have to really have the trust of people. And how can people trust you if you are spending their money in the wrong way? And you know, fire everybody, we can't do that. So I really think that the county has done a really good job of managing their resources within the scope of their budget. The problem was one individual who abused their power, who was being supervised by subordinates, and I really think that needs to change.
Thank you. This last question, I want to precede it by reminding everybody that District 5 United was created to give our community a voice, because we live in this community, we care about this community, and we need to be a part of the solutions that come through here, because nobody likes to be told how to clean their own house, and we want to let you know, we want to tell you we want our house cleaned. So this question directly results from our purpose. So how do you intend on staying connected with the community in order to understand and prioritize issues affecting the citizens? And Teresa gets to start.
Well, you know, there are so many issues affecting the county and affecting this community, and I think it's really important to ramp up engagement with the community. There is a big district, you know, includes the East Side, Japantown, downtown, South Central, Little Saigon, whatever you want to call it. And there are so many different communities within District 2. It's really important that we get out and hear from our diverse constituents directly. And I think that's going to take a lot of time, but it's very, very important. I would propose, much like the D5 United, is to establish a District 2 Community Council, Community Leaders Council, where we're coming together to talk about these issues. Right now, government is very organized where you have to go to the county. You have to go to multiple meetings if you're interested in BART, or the fairgrounds, or the Civic Center, or a health clinic, or any of these issues. You have to go to them. I think government has to come to you. We need to give you updates on what's going on and get your feedback. You're all very engaged in the community. Those are the kinds of people that we want to connect with, because you're the ones that then go out and talk with your neighbors and make sure people are informed. Government can't do all those things. It's really about the people-to-people power. And so I would establish a D2 Community Leaders Council.
So we did a lot of work with the neighborhood action committees, or neighborhood action councils, and the Strong Neighborhoods Initiative, and I think United Neighborhoods, and there are lots of organizations that really exist today that create an opportunity for us to come and meet. In fact, tonight is a really great example of a really big cross-section of the public who came out because of two organizations coming together. So what I would say is, as a council member, I did that. As a supervisor, I would do that, because I think the culture in the county is just different than the city. I think people have very high expectations when you're on the city council that you are going to be at everything. And I think in some ways the county's sort of been that invisible level of government. And what's so odd to me about that is, if you think about it, the county, in some ways, you know, I know I've referred to it as a safety net, but in some ways it's bigger than that. It's really the foundation of our community. It's the courts, it's the hospital, it's, you know, child welfare, it's all of those things that really knit us together as a place. And so what I want to do is reach out to you all and figure out what do you feel like is working now and what could be better. And then the last thing, I think, you know, when I was on the city council, the other thing we did is we really tried to put budget meetings and important hearings in the evening. And right now at the county, you have to go during the day. And I think those meetings should be at night. They should be easy for people to get to. And I think people should be able to respond even online. You know, I've had this experience, and I know a number of you have, where you're at something and people can live stream their questions or their comments or their input. And for those of us over the age of whatever my age is now, 45, you know, that can be a little distracting because we're not as good at it as the young ones. But I do think we have to get better at it, or we're going to lose a whole generation of people who are not going to have time for government, because it doesn't look like what they do every day. And we can change that. We can do something about that.
So what I would do is go out to each community and just talk to them and say, hey, what do you want? What's your expectations? What do you want from your board of supervisor? And ask them. And like Cindy said, we have a unique diversity in this county. And I've had to do this. In many countries, you know, you can't sit there and not talk to people. I've had to use translators. I've had to use broken English to talk to people overseas. And I've had to find out what their wants and needs are when I'm working alongside them. It's a very unique experience having to do that. I'll do the same here. Go and just talk to the people and get to know them. And also, what we call in the military, we have an open door policy. Like you said, you know, you have to go out there as government. That's what I would do. But I also have days during the month where people just wanted to come talk to me in my office, just come in and talk and let me know what your concerns are. Because some people don't like, and some cultures don't like to do things in a group. They want to talk to you privately. So I would do that. I would give them the opportunity to come talk to me privately, or I'd come to their home. If it's more comfortable for that, just, you know, there'd be a way that I'd make it so I can come in their environment where they feel comfortable so they can be honest. Because that's what it comes down to. You have to be honest both ways, have honest communication. And you know, that's what I think you have to do. And you only can do that by getting out there and just learning the unique cultural diversity of each group. And I've done that on 5 continents, so, you know, whether I wanted to or not, unfortunately, because sometimes in the military you go places you don't want to go. But you learn from that, and you get experience from that, and you learn how to work alongside and work with people. One of the experiences I had is I worked with 5 different African countries in East Africa, and that was one of the most challenging and best experiences I've had. Or working with sheikhs in Iraq, you know, how do you talk to a sheikh? This guy, you know, when I'm hiring police, he would give me the word that this guy would make a good cop, and that's what I had to go by, because his word meant a lot. If the sheikh said that somebody in his tribe was good, you believed him and you went with it. So, you know, these are the kind of problems and issues I've had to face, and you know, I think I've done a pretty good job at that, and I think I could do that job here too. Thank you.
Well, that's really powerful examples. I think the first thing that I would want to do again is have a satellite office available for parents and for anyone that wants to come to the district office. And I would be available, accessible. I would not be sending my staff to meetings, because I see this a lot. I think what has happened is many people are just disengaged from what needs to be done instead of what they're doing. When I was on the board, East Side especially, it occurred to me that students had no voice, parents had no voice in decision making, so I went to the board and we created some committees, and the committee was, one of them is Student Board Relations Committee, and they still meet monthly. I met with them for 16 years. I met with parents, different diverse groups, and being bilingual really opened a lot of doors because people were afraid to come and speak to somebody that didn't understand the language. So being accessible in different languages is really important. I think that transparency, just being honest with people, and sometimes they're going to hear things that they don't want to hear, but you also have to be honest and truthful. And the oath that we took when we all applied to run for this position says that you will swear to defend the Constitution of the United States. And I take that very seriously, because we are being entrusted by being their servants, because we work for the public. And I think that is really important, that we need to go out to the public, and absolutely we need to have night meetings. It's just not fair that they're at 9 o'clock in the morning when the majority of us are working, and I really think they need to be available. There's a myth that all parents have computers. That is not true. I can tell you that as a teacher and as a board member, I had a lot of parents that did not have access to a computer. Even though Comcast is offering this wonderful program for $9 a month for a limited time, they're afraid of giving their information to any agency. So I want to be a catalyst to these parents and say, look, you can come to our office, we'll help you to find the resources. We don't have all the answers, but we can try to help.
A good shepherd knows his or her flock. Period. Government relies on a few conditions for it to operate on its citizens. One, you provide reasonable housing, stuff in the refrigerator, reasonable price gasoline. The vast majority of people just bitch and moan to their neighbors about things that are going on in their government. The government is all of us. It's all of you, me. And yet, when I look across this room, I can see His Honor, Councilmember Campos, being one of the few people that goes to the Rules and Open Government Committee for the City of San Jose, in which District 5 is an integral part. So when I look across these very dutiful faces out here, how is it that I'm the only one, or there's actually 3 of us, that are regular citizens that go to this very, very powerful committee that deals with resources for your community, notwithstanding the County District 2. Now what is needed is not only communication as has been espoused by everybody so far. We need to create a newspaper or television station, because the San Jose Mercury News isn't worth the paper it's printed on. In addition, the news media is also just as bad. So how are you going to get the news to the district? Well, therein lies the next generation hybridized Board of Supervisor person, a communication person, not associated with a government entity that covers up issues concerning the sewer service and use charge, in reference to that cursed advanced water filtration plant. All of us are going to be paying significant fees for, especially in brine removal. But this is another issue for another day. But thank Councilmember Campos. He's doing a good job at City Hall for you. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes our pre-designated questions. I see us running out of water. If you need more water, wait, I will bring you another bottle. So now we're going to move into audience questions. This is your last call. If you want a card to write it on, just raise up your hand if you have the card, and they'll collect them and bring them over. After they collect the ones you're holding now, we'll have more than enough to cover the amount of time we have for audience questions. I will be reading the audience questions from the cards, and for the audience questions, so we can get in as many as possible, you'll have 1 minute for your responses. So, this first question. Downtown no longer has a hospital in its core. What are your plans to reinstate full hospital services? Let's see. Yeah.
Okay. So, downtown used to have the San Jose Medical Center, and for those of you who remember this debate, we worked very hard both to keep it open when I was on the City Council, and then we did a study once the medical center closed to determine whether or not there would be enough, frankly, market share that someone else would be attracted to that piece of property. We could buy it and sell it for a hospital. We did not have anybody interested in doing that. Then when Measure A came along, and this was a Measure A, maybe, I can't remember what year it was, but it was intended to rebuild the county hospital, and I worked on this campaign, and one of the things we did is we set aside money as part of that, that ballot initiative to be able to buy the land downtown that now has the Gardner Health Clinic on it. So I don't foresee being able to have hospital beds there. I don't think we'll get a private sector provider to do that. But I do think it's very important to maintain the health and vitality of the Gardner Health Clinic infrastructure, because it's such an integral part of providing services.
Hear me? Okay. I think I have to agree with Cindy on this. It doesn't sound feasible that that's going to happen at a hospital in downtown. We'd have to see the resources we have, like if she said we have a clinic, maybe expand on the clinic, maybe find a way to get some resources to get maybe some more services we can use or that are needed. And that's what we have to do. We'd have to find out what services the community would need and see if we can get them to that. But you have to do, you know, like you have to figure out what those services are. You can only do that by going to that clinic and seeing if the clinic is meeting those needs that are being used right then, and expanding what we can and taking away what we don't need. So that's what we might have to do. So.
The question was how to restore the San Jose Hospital? Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's been demolished, so I think that there's only one little tiny building left there. I never did quite understand why they would demolish it. I don't know the details, but I think we need to win the lotto. You know, we need a lot of money in order to build another hospital there. It occurred to me that when I was walking precincts in that area, there is a great need for having something in that area, because the nearest hospitals are either far on the east side or I think it's the west side. So it is an issue. And I really think the county needs to look at that issue, because we have more people living in the county, more need, And so what are we going to do to serve the people? We already know that, well, I already know that the budget is, the mid-year budget for their health services is 20% more than projected, which is a lot of money for whenever you're doing a projected budget. So I think it is an important issue, and I'm not close to it. I think we need to look at it, find maybe Google or Facebook or one of these companies to give some money and help to build a hospital. Why not? I think that it would serve a lot of people.
God has not outlawed miracles, but short of one, there won't be a hospital as we've all grown up to accommodate one downtown. This won't happen. What can happen is some form of way to cover the liability insurance, the malpractice insurance of doctors and nurses and what have you, to create flexible clinics, mobile clinics throughout the county. Or specifically, maybe even the concept that Joe could speak on is military field hospitals. All sorts of new ideas have to come from candidates and from leaders to address the changing times of our lives. But once again, it relies on you. Once again, whoever voted for Measure B voted to die because it cuts back response time of the fire department. So if you're having that chest pain or you're sucking down that last gasp of air, remember what you did to the fire department. Thank you.
So, I was born at San Jose Hospital. It was very sad to see that facility go away. I think it's unlikely there'll be a full hospital there. Regional is undergoing a major renovation and expansion right now to serve this area. But the new clinic is going to be built next year, and I think it's going to be fantastic, offer some great services to the community. And in addition, there's some extra land on that site, I think it's 10 acres, where there's other opportunities to bring in other ancillary medical services, maybe some other clinic, off-site facilities, and also maybe some retail, maybe some open space, other things that can bring some life to that area, because I know that the businesses are suffering. Since San Jose Hospital closed, they're really suffering. It's a very quiet little section of East Santa Clara Street, and they're very eager to not only get the medical services in that area, but also some other services that can be provided.
Okay, thank you. So, no more cards. You had your chance. I'm reading the ones that I have. So, this time, let's see who we're starting with Joseph. This question, people in central San Jose are very poor, mostly minority, who don't know much about the resources that the county has. What specifically will you do to reach out to them and get them involved?
First, I'll find out why they're not involved and why they're not getting the resources. I mean, you have to go down there and just ask and see if there's a cultural barrier, a language barrier, whatever barrier there is, you got to find out what it is. And you can only do that by going down there and walking around and talking to the people. So I would do that and then try to find out if it is a cultural barrier, what the norms in that culture are, and see if I can figure out a way to get them involved in getting the resources they need. Or if it's an income barrier, then try to get them to tell them, hey, you have these resources here at the hospital or this or whatever we have that we can give them. So, just like I said, you got to go down and talk to people. I've been doing that my whole life, one way or another, as law enforcement or military. Around the world here, until you actually get down and talk to the people that need it, they're not going to know. So it doesn't do any good to talk to the top. You got to talk to the people on the bottom, the workers too. I don't go to the general and say, this. I go to the lowest guy because he knows what's going on. The general don't know anything. So I can tell you that from experience.
The question was specifically for Central San Jose, wasn't it?
Well, it's an issue in central San Jose, but a lot of people don't know county resources and things like that. So while it's from a central San Jose resident recognizing it's an issue, it is something that you need to address countywide.
Absolutely. In fact, that has been the #1 shocker for me when I'm talking to people, whether it's $1 million homes or foreclosed homes or people who are homeless. They have no idea what the Board of Supervisors do, who they even are, or that there's an election for that matter. So that education, accessibility, speaking in the languages that are needed, and again, you know, sending the staff member and the supervisor into the district and meeting with the neighborhood groups and just establishing the trust, because I know that one of the issues that I have seen as a teacher, every day I get somebody who will call me or email me or just show up in my classroom. Just today somebody came to ask for help. You know, I want to learn computers. I heard that you used to teach computers and English as a second language, and I said we have no more programs. They will cut because of funding. But I have these resources. I can refer you to these agencies, so that's what I did. And again, it would be, I know it would be difficult because, you know, you have all these meetings as a supervisor. However, you're going to have to prioritize serving the people, and I'm hoping I'll be able to do that.
This is another issue concerning mass communications and how you go about doing it. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors really don't even know their own jobs, because this wouldn't be an issue if they did. So how do you communicate to people that speak a wide variety of languages? And then again, how do you speak to people that want something for free and don't want to get off their rear ends to find out what they need and come down to government and participate? I'm not sympathetic with those people, to be honest with you. Now, as far as, okay, what if you're a senior and you're disabled? Well, hey, that's a whole different ballgame now, isn't it? But if you're just a, whoever you are, citizen, but you're able-bodied, you have a reasonable intellect, get off your rear end and come down to government and redress your government. That is your affirmative duty. But yet, how often do we see that at San Jose City Hall or the county building? I know at San Jose City Hall, very, very, very rarely. But the county building, even less so. So when I hear such a question, I'm reminded about the lack of participation by people who have an affirmative duty to get off their rear ends.
I think the District 2 Community Leaders Council would be a great way to share information throughout the district. And there are a couple things that we've done at the Water District that I instituted when I started there. One was, we laughed about it earlier, but it's a Create TV television show. So Create TV is San Jose's public access television station. It's super affordable. I think it's $200 an episode. And our show is called The People Behind Your Water. It airs 4 times a month on Channel 30, and it's a fantastic way just to share information with the public about your services, about the work that you're doing. People, you know, are flipping channels and they stumble upon it and they find it really very interesting, and they send us really good feedback. Another is open houses. We didn't used to talk a lot about what we did. Now we have open houses both at the district and in the community, and they can hear about dam safety, about water quality, about flood protection, about any number of services that they actually end up being very, very interested in and appreciate learning more.
You know, the county interacts with literally hundreds and hundreds of people every day. And whether that's in the courts or the hospital or through healthcare and through a whole network of fantastic nonprofits that are doing great work with the public. So I think part of what we need to be able to do is work with our partners, neighborhood leaders, community leaders, our nonprofit partners, to figure out how to capture folks when they come in and help them understand the entity that they're working with. Because really what people see is, I'm going to go deal with the courts, or I'm going to go deal with the hospital. And one thing that we found, and I think that Supervisor Alvarado really helped with this on Measure A, but people love Valley Medical Center. They know the hospital. They just don't know the county. And so part of it is really us helping brand the county in a way that people understand these are our services. And that's really important, because when we fought to pass Measure A, and that was really important, it was the first time we've had a general sales tax for the county, and that's going to allow us to fund children's health insurance is my top priority for that money. My hope is. But when we did that, we found that people love their county. Just don't know enough about it.
Okay. Patricia, you'll start this question. Due to the recent arrival of homeless people along the vicinity of McKee between White and Capitol and the number of liquor stores, there's a lot of blight going on in that area. And this is also happening in other areas of the county, but specific to us, that's happening there. What solutions do you offer to attack these social ills?
That is such a critical question, and it's really affecting all of our lives. I don't think anyone in this room is not affected by someone who is homeless, and the blight and the graffiti and the drugs. And again, it would be having the resources, going to them, having mobile units. I think that the county has already began that, and so has the city. They're already doing a really good job. What I wonder is, why did it take such a long time for it to grow into this monster of a problem, which we have now? We do know that many of the homeless people are very addicted to heroin or prescription drugs. And an interesting phenomenon that I'm hearing from people in the community, they're not all excited about BART coming to San Jose, and I was really surprised to hear that. I would like BART to come to San Jose. We've been waiting for 20 years to get something on the east side. But their argument is that it's going to be a pipeline for more drugs and more crime to this area. So there is a level of not trusting, again, the government. So what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we educate people and say, no, we need BART, we need transportation, because we need it for our environment and etc. So having the resources and the money available.
We hear a lot of flowery talk about this very significant and ongoing problem. This is very serious business. It is not going to go away. It's only going to increase, primarily because Santa Clara County has, for decades, been known as Santa Claus County. Government needs to be cut, not expanded. But to address this rampant homelessness, now homelessness is a variety of sectors within it. Vagrancy, for one. People coming in here that can't even afford to live here from other states, other jurisdictions. You have the mentally ill in vast and growing numbers. Drug-addicted people in vast and growing numbers. How do you deal with it? No municipality and no county government can solve it. There's only one real solution that I've come across, is that for the County Board of Supervisors to petition the governor of the state of California to bring in the California National Guard to round this element up, segregate those out for treatment with military hospital units, and the rest of them that are on parole into a stockade, and the good homeless people, some form of works project administration to put them to work picking up trash that's all over this place and above that light structure behind you.
So residents that are active in neighborhood associations are really the eyes and ears of the neighborhood. I've gone to several neighborhood associations over the past couple of months, and I've been pretty stunned at the issues that they've talked about. Prostitution in front of a school, loitering around the liquor store around the corner. And they brought not only the police officers, the local police officers who have responsibility for that beat, but they called the liquor store owner, and he was there, and they were telling him, hey, you need to make sure your employees are not selling to people who are obviously intoxicated or who are going to walk out the door and pass out right out front. And so they really challenged them, and that was the way to do it. I mean, he was surprised. I don't think he lived in the area, and he was surprised to hear the feedback. And it was important for them to say, this is our community. We care about how it looks. We care about the safety. A great example is graffiti. There are these beautiful art boxes now, right, that you've seen in the community. Those came from a community leader, Tina Morrell, in the Vendome Neighborhood Association. It was her idea to start that, and I remember I can't remember anymore. Stop.
So let me just talk about the issue relative to homelessness first, and then hopefully we'll have time for blight. But I think one of the big issues is how we take really scarce dollars and try to deal with these very big challenges. And one of them is that the County of Santa Clara has a housing authority, the City of San Jose has a housing department, and all of these different groups have their own ways of dealing with homelessness and housing. And there's a great opportunity, and Teresa's talked a little bit about Destination Home on the campaign trail, but that is one program that could fit under a joint powers authority so that you could bring all the housing groups together and really pull that money together and then get the input of all of these communities in terms of the very best way to address it. I think Destination Home is a very promising program to start with. But I think there's a lot of opportunity that we've not pursued. Now, as it relates to blight, the only way we've ever made change in blight is getting neighborhoods organized, invested, and out in front of their communities. Because the way we moved prostitution and really started to get it off the streets was we did patrols. We talked to the community. We went out and made it very uncomfortable for people to do illegal activity in our communities, and we need to keep doing that.
I have to agree with Cindy. I've seen working as a law enforcement officer and referred people to the housing, emergency housing and this and that. There are things out there that people can use. So we just have to get them the word to do it. And maybe expand if we can, but it all comes down to the budget. You can't spend money we don't have, so we have to be very resourceful in how we spend that money. So, use what we have, maybe find out some other ways to get some other people out there to donate or whatever we can, or communities. As for the graffiti, well, Juan had a good idea that reminded me. My commander actually asked me the other day in the reserves, what can we do to serve our community? What can we do to make a presence out there? So I think one of my recommendations is there's 20 units at the reserve center I'm at, always looking for community service. Maybe I can get some of these units to come out here and get the community and do graffiti. Maybe we can come out in uniform and come out to these communities here and make a presence, military, with kids, helping do the, covering up this graffiti, because that would be a good thing we can do. And I will bring that to my commander, because he actually asked me the other day, figure something out we can do in our local community. Well, 20 units are sitting out there with people that can do stuff like that.
Next question, we'll start with David. And I want to say thank you to Peter. You're the only person that actually wrote your name on the card. So this is Peter's question. What specific measures would you support to combat childhood obesity?
That's the pot calling the kettle black. We've heard tonight about the need for communication, right? I think it's time, perhaps some of us need to do some walking of our own. But nonetheless, we have to readdress how schools deal with, well, look at the cutbacks at schools. When I was in school, we had physical education for at least 2 hours a day, in addition to math, piano, arts, theater arts, all sorts of good stuff. So that's, how do you fund public schools in that issue? Or how do you find within the county money to create sports programs, because these athletic fields are getting to be just too congested by these special interest soccer leagues, for example. I mean, they're coming in from all parts of outside the county, for that matter, especially with that god-awful device they want to put over by the airport, those 4 soccer fields that'll be breathing in Jet A and Jet B fuels, in the summer afternoons. But all these will be contracted out outside of the county, for the most part. So the county needs to utilize its county parks. For example, Grant Ranch Park would be an outstanding place for kids to go hiking, playing soccer, or running away from wild animals. Thank you.
So when I was the executive director of the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, childhood obesity was one of the initiatives that I launched. It was really important to me. And the organizations that were doing really great work that we funded were BOSSI, Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative, and we funded a program called Salud por Vida, which is really focused on the mom so that they could, as a family, go out and do exercise together. We also funded Sierra Club's inner city outings, where they take inner city youth and go on nature expeditions and wilderness hikes and, expose them to the environment. I thought those were incredible programs. In addition, I've done work for the First 5 Santa Clara County, which is all about the first 5 years of a child's life. And they focus so much on childhood obesity and making sure that kids and families are providing healthy, nutritious meals. And one of their best programs, I think, is Potter the Otter Who Loves to Drink Water. Instead of drinking sugary drinks, they really promote kids drinking water, tap water. So I think those are great examples.
So, I hope it was nothing you said. I think she was like 4. So let me just talk a little bit about ideas that we can pull from that don't cost us more money, but are just a new way of thinking about our environment. And one of them is we have a huge number of people in our community who get their primary groceries from corner stores that are really primarily liquor stores or other kinds of stores that don't have a lot of fresh food in them. So one of the programs that we're in the process of developing with my former hat as the head of working partnerships in partnership with the Health Trust is creating a healthy corner store program. And that healthy corner store program would be to help these small businesses be able to sell fresh fruits and vegetables. What the healthy corner stores, when we went to see them, asked for was they said, look, we'll do that, but here's what we'd like. We'd like to be eligible to take CalFresh. So this is an opportunity for us to increase the number of people who have access to fresh and healthy foods and do it right in their neighborhoods.
You know, one thing I liked living overseas was what I see we don't have it here. A lot of the states that I like to try to get is more bike trails, more trails. Because when you live overseas, like in Germany, they push their kids riding bikes. The kids are like on bikes everywhere. They go to school on a bike, you know, they take public transportation, they walk. Here, unfortunately, we don't do that. We look for convenience. You know, we're looking to drive our cars. We're looking to get on the computer. You know, whatever's convenient, which physical activity is not. So I like to try to get more bike lanes, more trails, more stuff for the kids, parks. I mean, that's what they need to do. They need to have a safe environment to go outside and play. When I was growing up, as a lot of people here, you know, we went outside and played, and that's what you did. And I don't see kids doing that these days. Unfortunately, with the technology we have, they sit in their, behind their desk and computer, and that's all they do. So we've got to figure out a way to get more opportunities to play outside. And you know, that's how I grew up, and that's why it's not like in Europe they still do that. I mean, it's amazing how they don't use cars like we do. They use public transportation. They use bikes. They walk. And you know, for drinking a lot of beer, I'm surprised Germans aren't fat, because Germany over there, I drink beer. I'm surprised I'm not fat.
Well, we can't tell people what they can and cannot eat. I think people pretty much make up their own minds. And I know, coming from a yo-yo syndrome all my life, up and down with my weight, and coming from a family that is you know, very healthy eater, but it's also genetics. So one of the issues that I've been working on for so many years as a teacher and as a policymaker is educating parents and students about the choices that they can make. For example, many years ago there was an opportunity to make $1 million a year having Pepsi machines at all the Eastside campuses. And I voted against it. Why? Because I thought it was a bad idea, because you were giving kids sugary water, colored sugary water. And of course, I was voted down and the machines went into the district. Fortunately enough, there were some bills from Marta Scutia and Deborah Ortiz who said you can't do that in the schools anymore. So out went the machines, thank goodness. And we established this fabulous healthy policy. How did we do that? We had everybody involved, parents, students. I was the board member liaison. We ended up getting an award for it, but it was a collaborative issue, and people told us what they wanted to eat, specifically students, because that was a big issue. The district was losing money feeding kids because they weren't eating the horrible food. And I don't blame them. You should see what my kindergartners are eating. I try not to let them eat it.
All right. Now we're going to go back and start with Teresa again. And Peter has a friend. Aurelia also put her name on the card, so thank you, Aurelia. How will Obamacare affect county health services? Will it cost the county money?
Yes. It's going to be a huge impact on county services, and I think that's what's important is we need to rethink the way county delivers healthcare services. We really have to bring innovation to the county and how we reach patients, how we encourage access to healthcare services, how we guide them through the healthcare process. It's going to cause a whole sea change. They're developing a call center now in multiple languages so that people can get information about healthcare services, about the insurance, new insurance options. So it's going to be a complete change. Electronic medical records, the county's been trying to move toward that for many years. We know Kaiser has done that. You go to your doctor, Kaiser, and they tell you when you need a mammogram. Not you guys, but, or you know, when you need your annual or whatever it is. That's what the county will be able to do in the future. It's going to be very exciting, it's going to be very important, but it will be a huge transition, and we really need to encourage innovation. Thanks.
So the county used to contribute about, I want to say over the last 4 years, maybe $200 million a year to the overall health and hospital system budget. And it's almost $2 billion. It is a very big part of the county budget. Now the general fund subsidy is about $80 million. stopping. But I think that the point that Teresa's raising is that we really don't know enough about what's going to happen relative to healthcare to know what the overall impact will be to the general fund budget. One thing we need to be really thinking critically about is that the whole idea behind the Affordable Health Care Act is two-part. One, that everybody has access, right? That we all have insurance. But the second is that people get preventative care early enough so that we're really on the front end of before people get diabetes or before they have really serious eye problems or all of that. And the challenge for the county is that the county's gotten very good at those end-run services, and we've got to start investing up front to make sure that we're keeping people out of the hospital and healthy in their homes as long as we can.
I agree with Cindy. I mean, initially, we don't know what it's going to cost, but anything you start new is going to initially be expensive. So I'm assuming, like anything else in government, when somebody creates something, it's going to cost money initially to start it. And then after that, normally the costs go down after they figure out what works and what doesn't work. So, like you said, the $2 billion that we spend on healthcare and the other $80 million, we'll see how this affects the county budget once we get more information on it, because nobody knows exactly how this is going to happen or how it's going to affect the county until it actually does. So, like I agree with her, preventive care is important. That's one of the things we do, like in the military, is it's all about preventive care, so people don't get sick or hurt. You go to the doctor, and that's why we need to get the seniors and the families and the children to get them that, so they can be healthy and not have to get long-term illnesses that are going to cost a lot more money because they just don't know that they have these resources available. So the question, like I said, it's not initially known. We'll know more hopefully next year. I think it's when we're going to have more information on that.
What happened? Well, I think it's really going to affect all government agencies. I know that as a union member, we've had discussion in our bargaining units talking about we're going to have a choice of where we can go and get health care. And if I'm paying $700 a month for health care right now, and if I can find the same quality of health care with a different provider, you bet I'm going to go somewhere else. So I really think that the county and all government agencies should have been already having this discussion, creating some very serious dialogues with the providers that have Blue Cross, Anthem, and all these monster companies, and find out what they're going to do to keep the business, because I really think that people are talking about creating even their own companies. And choice is going to be a big issue. It is going to affect the county in unimaginable proportions. It's a good idea, but we need to be ready for it, and I'm not really sure the county is ready for it.
Obamacare, well, it's a great idea. Who wants to be ill? I probably had more surgeries on my body than everybody on this panel and probably the room combined. Well, not the entire room. 3 weeks ago, I just had spine surgery, so I know what pain is all about. Nobody should suffer pain. Everybody should be well. It's no fun being sick. But what do we have about Obamacare that's negative, real negative? It's an unfunded federal mandate. Right? It's a great idea. I don't want anybody to suffer, not even with a head cold. But where's the money going to come from? Fill your wallets, if you still got one. There's a great sucking sound that's going to be coming out of it. All right? And hey, which one of you, any one of you, would deny somebody first aid is bleeding to death or choking on something? Nobody in this room would. So Obamacare is a great idea. But like a lot of great ideas from Washington, it lacks substance. And the substance is in the form of cash. I don't know how to solve this problem. There's no money. It's an intractable problem at this time. Thank you.
All right, here's an interesting one for you. Can we count on you to be the member of the Board of Supervisors who unifies them into a cohesive team? Tell us why you will be that person. Go, Cindy.
All right, so no small feat. I mean, I think the great thing about the Board of Supervisors is that it's 5 people. And I think that for the most part, people who run for the board really want our community to be the best it can be. And so I'm really confident that we have a lot of people up there, or that all of them up there are thoughtful and that they want to make change. And so the short answer is I understand that part of the challenge representing the District 2 area is that you are really fighting for the most resources you can get for a community that's the neediest. And that requires us to make sure that every member of the board not only feels like they represent their area, but they're also the representative of District 2. Now, when I served on the San Jose City Council, I gave tours to all of my colleagues so that they could meet neighborhood leaders, they could know what needed to happen, because when you go for budget fights, you really need people to support you in being able to fund those things that are high need, and having people feel and see that they're responsible for all of our community too is probably the best way to do that.
Yeah, I've been, for many years, I've had to try to get people to do things they don't want to do in the military, and that's what we're taught. You know, it's like, how are you going to get these people to do this knowing they don't want to? So you have to learn, like, what motivates them. Why are they doing it? Like Cindy said, we're all motivated here to make this district better, this county better. So, you know, I work alongside them and work as a team, because you have to work as a team. So you have to find out what their needs are in their districts and what our needs. You got to balance it. And you talk to them and say, hey, look, this is what we need and this is why. And you know, you have to try to find out how you're gonna pull them to your side to get that done. And as a military officer, you know, that's what we do every day out there. You know, we're trying to get people, influence them to go to my side. And I have a lot of experience doing that, because you know, that's what I have to do in foreign countries, that's what I have to do here as a law enforcement officer, and that's what we're taught. You know, how do you influence people? You do that by sit down, talk to them, get to know them, and then just tell them to be up front and honest. You don't have to do anything besides that, and work alongside them and let them know you're there for the same interests they are. Because everybody, even the other district board of supervisors, they're there for their reason for their districts, just like like we want to be. So.
This has been really fun listening to all these ringtones. Serving on Allen Rock, I was the only woman for 9 years, and then East Side for 14 years, I was the only woman. So it was challenging at times, but it was also really good because I brought a whole different perspective to the table. And one of the things that I learned very early on is that we're all very strong people, strong personalities, we're all leaders. So you have to, when you bring 5 strong people in one room, that is challenging. So it is going to be a time of learning, of education, making sure we all learn our comfort zones, and having transparency, open access. And I like to cook, so I'm going to be bringing a lot of food to the Board of Supervisors, which also gives me a lot of points.
Oh, no. One thing that hadn't been discussed too much tonight is agriculture, and how Santa Clara County used to be the Valley of the Heart's Delight. This gets really back into health in a variety of different ways, employment in a variety of different ways. I'm probably the only one here on this panel that is actively building an orchard. As a matter of fact, I have an apology to make. I hate this damn suit. I only wore it because my wife wanted me to. I'm usually in bib overalls. And if you're surfing Korea TV, that's where you'll see me. This bib overalls down at San Jose City Hall. And so we hear a lot tonight, too, about leadership councils. Be very, very skeptical about this. All of a sudden, they're cliques, and you didn't vote for cliques. And yet they become the conduit for decision makers on how your neighborhoods are going to become. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of problems here today. And take it from a farmer. I'm probably the last of the urban farmers. I have bees, honeybees. I create dried fruit. My wife does cases of jam. We preserve all sorts of foods. And this should be incorporated through every school throughout the county and the city by growing and preserving food in the classrooms. Think about it. Thank you.
So the question was about working with the other supervisors, is that right? Okay. So I am running to bring reforms and accountability to the Board of Supervisors and to the county. And that can be viewed as a real stick. Not very fun, not very nice. So I think it's also important to talk about, as you're doing that and as you're implementing reforms, talk about the improvements you're making. Talk about organizational improvements and gains that you are making. That is not only helpful for the Board of Supervisors to have something good to talk about, it's great for employees. Employees at the county want to be proud of the organization. They don't want to be embarrassed by it. I don't think the supervisors do either. So I think it's really important to approach organizational improvements in a very positive way, not as a punitive or a stick approach, but very much an opportunity to tell the public what you're doing right.
All right, so I'm going to perform a feat for you now. I'm going to put all these 3 cards into one question. And we're going to start with Joseph. So basically, this election is costing the taxpayers a lot of money. And if there's not a 50% winner, it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money for a runoff election. So if there isn't a clear-out winner first time around, would any of you be willing to step down and concede to somebody else to take over instead of costing the taxpayers all that money? And in answering that, are all of you committed not just to this 2-year position, but to running again and serving beyond that for another 8 years? Okay, Joseph.
Well, being my first time running, probably not. I hate to lose. So, you know, there's things in my life that I've done that I haven't won, but not much. So I'm gonna, you know, but honestly, yeah, it is costing a lot of money. And I've really seen the political process as I go along and realize how much you have to raise to do this. And unfortunately, in my book, the last couple of weeks I served in the military for some training. We're not allowed to do any campaigning. So I don't have, you know, a lot of the resources and stuff like that. And I was kind of actually appalled to hear one person tell me, you know, it's going to cost up to $250,000 just to win this election. That money can go somewhere else. You know, I mean, that's ridiculous. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
It's a 2-year.
Oh yeah, I would stay. You know, I'm not a career politician, but my goal is to retire at 56, regardless of what I do. My daughter's 18, so when she's 18, I'm out. So that's honestly, no matter what I'm doing, because
She's 4.
so she's 6 years old. But my goal is, if she goes to college, I'm drinking wine in France or something, because you know, so that's what I'm going to do.
No to the first question, because I think democracy and people have a right to choose their representatives, so I believe very strongly that it's important. That's why we're here. There will be a runoff because there are 6 of us, and I think mathematically it's just not going to be possible. The other question was yes, I think it's a commitment for 7.5 years, and I am committed to that. Never in my wildest imagination did I ever dream that I was going to be running or being elected to anything, so I think it's a great honor, but it's also a great responsibility. And so, no and yes.
No, I'm not going to stand by and let other people that are less competent than me continue. Simple as that. And yes, I would stay because unlike the rest of my contemporaries to my right, I'm already retired. I'm coming out for never having to work again for the rest of my life to be your person to do your bidding, to be whipped up upon, to have a thankless job, be cursed upon. I don't have to do that. I can sit in my orchard and watch the honeybees dance from flower to flower. Now, I overskipped the question because I didn't hear it last time on how to get the supervisors to work together. Hey, they're people, they're good people, okay? So how do you get them to work together if they have an impasse? You just kind of convince them that their suffering will eclipse the standards set forth in hell. We got to serve you people. Thank you.
Well, the board had an option to appoint to fill the vacancy, and there are several members of the community that went and spoke out very passionately about the need for the community to choose their next elected official. So if it had been an appointment process, I would have applied, and I would have been happy to go through that process. But this is an important process. Actually, it's very important because the community has not been very engaged, I don't think, with the County Board of Supervisors for several years now. And I think it's very important to hear from you directly. I appreciate all the people who have come. It's amazing to me that people are expressing a lot of interest and are paying attention to this race. So thank you all very much. And there is so much to do at the county. It's enormous. It's an enormous organization. Big programs and areas of responsibility. So I would not be going anywhere. I want to see all those changes through and see how they benefit the community.
Elections are great opportunities for us to get to know the public and the public to get to know us. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to run and to have conversations and to get your ideas and to try to persuade you that I'm the best person and here's why, and get your feedback about whether or not that's true. And so, and I think, and I do agree, it's awful that we have to spend this money, but I also think that democracy is worth it. It's worth it to be able to have a really engaged and meaningful conversation about what this district ought to look like. And what does that mean in terms of staying? I think the Board of Supervisors is, the job is big and it's complex, and I would argue that it takes some time to get to know. And I think that we should all stand for election each time if we decide to stay and be able to go back out to the public and say, here's what I accomplished, or here's what I didn't, and let people evaluate us every step along the way, because it is a 12-year term. I mean, really, it's 12 years you can run 3 times.
All right. Thank you. Now we're going to enter into our closing statements, and since we started this way for opening, we're going to start that way and go opposite for closing. So, in your closing statement, you'll have 1 minute. Please include in your closing statement your vision for District 2. David?
First, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. I only wish that our verbiage could chill the room instead of heat it up. Vision for District 2, which is basically San Jose's several districts, District 3, District 5, District 7, not all of District 7, part of District 6. Our neighborhoods, there's some fine people in our neighborhoods. We need to encourage and to facilitate our neighborhoods to become the center of intellectual and spiritual growth within our city and county. To do this, we have to project our resources very wisely and very stringently with reference to people that do bad things. Sure, we all love stories of redemption and salvation, but for those that don't buy into that program, we have to give them the opportunity to move. We also have to encourage our agricultural pursuits, and also, above all, to get up our rear end pursuits and keep coming and participating in redressing our government. Thank you, and God bless you.
Okay, well, please visit my website, www.patriciamartinezroach.com. You're going to get a lot of information about me, probably more than you ever wanted to see. What can I say? I live in the district, I work in the district, I raised my kids here, I went to San Jose State. I've been here since 1966, and I know Teresa's trying to beat me, but it's not possible because she just moved back into the district, so it's not 1964. But, well, I was doing the math, and that's not possible. How can she beat me? But anyway, my point is that you really need to look at the qualifications. I have 26 years experience as an elected official. I've been elected, re-elected to school boards. That is an important issue because I've been directly working with people daily. It's not the same as being on the Board of Supervisors, City Council. You have staff members that do a lot of work for you. When you're a board member, you don't have any secretaries or any staff people. You are right there all the time. So my 39 years as a classroom teacher, being a single mom, speaking several languages, identifying with the poor people and people who are in need. You know, I know, because I'm a poor teacher. I've been living from paycheck to paycheck, and I was shocked to find out how much a Board of Supervisors makes. More than teachers do, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm doing this because I've served the nation, the community for my whole life. That's all I've done. I'm a citizen servant. My wife, you could look at her and you probably wouldn't guess it. She was a machine gunner in Baghdad for a year on a Humvee. You know, it doesn't look like this. So she served. She's going to be a nurse. But, you know, also, you know, my family served. That's what we've done. You know, so and that's what I want to continue to do. My vision is, like I've been taught every job I've had, is leave it better than you got it. You know what? I would leave this community better than I found it for the next person who comes behind me. That way they don't have to come in and do as much work. And that's what I'm taught, like in the military and as a police officer. That's what you got to do. You go into the job, you make it better than you found it, you leave it better for the next person, and you make people proud to live in this community, you make them proud of you for doing the job. Because one thing I've learned is, as a leader, is when things are going right, it's because of the troops. The troops is why things happen right. When things go bad and failure happens, it's because of you as a leader. And that's what I've been taught. So if something goes bad, I'm going to take responsibility and I'll be up front, because that's what you got to do.
So let me add my thanks to all of you coming and staying through a marathon forum. You know, at the risk of sounding cliche, you know, I got involved in public service because at a very young age, my family volunteered. And they treated everybody in our neighborhood like they were an extension of our family. And so I grew up believing that all of us had an obligation to create an environment that we could all thrive in. And from a very young age, you know, we used to call our house Casa Chavez because so many people were always living with us and getting on their feet and coming to the land of plenty and then getting out in the world and making their way. I look at government a similar way, which is I think it's an opportunity for us to build a community together that we are proud to live in. And that at some point we look back at this time and we say, even though the problems are big, in Santa Clara County, right now, we did something important about climate change. We did something profound with our healthcare system. We did something magic with getting people re-entered into our community. We can do that together, and I would like your support.
So we deserve a high-functioning government that is focused on creating and connecting people with opportunities. I told you about my family history. I was very fortunate to be born and raised here. I went to San Jose State and got my bachelor's in environmental technology and management. I got to go to get my master's degree in civil and environmental engineering. I've worked in the private sector in green technology. I've run a public foundation, and now I work at a great public agency. I really want to work as a bridge between the tremendous talent we have in our community and the amazing opportunities that are right here in our midst. They're in our region, all around us. This is the innovation capital of the world. There is no reason any of our kids should be left out of it. And I think that's really important. That gives me chills to say it because I really mean it. I think we all have such tremendous potential, and that's what I want to make my life's work, is to help bridging those opportunities.
All right, that ends our questions. I want to thank all of you very much for attending, and thank you to the audience. You were very respectful, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of you mostly for being very respectful to one another in your answers. That's what we're looking for. Before you leave, we do have a couple of messages that we want to provide. And while Ken Kelly and Juan come up here, we did do a survey on District 5 United about county issues and everything else. Each of the candidates was provided the survey results, and Juan will have them on our website next week sometime. Okay, so first Juan is going to tell you a little bit about District 5 United.
So hi everyone, I'm Juan Estrada, president of District 5 United, which was founded a couple of years ago by volunteer community leaders like Ken, myself, and others to help improve the quality of life in East San Jose. We're constantly doing that. Please feel free to visit district5united.org when you get a chance to see how you can help us improve the quality of life in East San Jose. And just want to say that we're thankful to the candidates for showing up, thankful to KLIV for recording, and thankful to UNSCC for co-sponsoring this candidates forum.
Well, absolutely, it's our pleasure. I think I'm standing here in front of a machine gunner, so I'm going to get off very quickly. I'm scared. I'm just a farmer from Nebraska, so what can I say? Tonight's Democracy in Action. You should be so very proud and pleased with yourselves. There was 80 people from your community that came tonight at one time or another. And United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County, and I don't know if I should use the word cliques like District 5 United and the other neighborhood associations, who are very hard workers in their communities and do a lot of good things. United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County is the umbrella organization for all neighborhood associations from Palo Alto to Gilroy. We love partnerships, we love to work with people, we enjoy hosting events like this, and I know that we have another event, Ed, planned for May 5th.
May 6th, Monday,
May 6th. Talk to the gentleman in the blue shirt in the back if you'd like more information about that forum. Very impressed that people run for office. It's a hard job. Really not very thankful to do it. So congratulations to you folks for running for office, and congratulations to all of you for coming out tonight.